Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 3, harmonizing light and shadow to embody your mystical power and purpose. I'm your host, Washela Sananda, and today I'm so excited to have this conversation with Fernando Vossa. Welcome, Fernando.
Washela, thank you. It is incredible to be in this now where we are re-engineering, re-envisioning the entire reality that we're presiding on at the moment. This is where we're going to take off from today.
Yes, I'm so excited to dig into this conversation with you. I'm going to share a little bit, just a little bit about what you're up to, but not too much because mostly I'm going to let you talk about that. But for starters, Fernando Vossa is an independent biofuturist, Terra healer, free energy researcher, consciousness scientist, and artivist. I love artivist. In 2013, he focused on developing a sustainable dome home called the Vosahedron. The Vosahedron Project is an integration of heart-based wisdom and quantum technologies and so much more. I don't want to read about it though. I want to ask you, let's just start there. Do you want to start with the Vosahedron Project and
Sure.
then go from there?
We already know that the individuals watching this right now are already at a level to be able to comprehend the awakening process. And this is that sequence of events in our lives that has gone through many cycles during our childhood, which I call it birth by lightning. And what I mean by that is the moment we incarnated on this earth, the more difficult it was, including in the womb of our parents, that childhood trauma. To me, that was the Spartan training as the first cycle of awakening that occurred in many of our lives. So those people that you hear about having a traumatic birth, coming out of their moms with the umbilical cord tied around their neck, or a collapsed lung, or trauma with violence, who knows? That happened to us again in our teenage life and again in our adult life. Well, my most recent awakening cycle was in 2012, December 21st. I was one of the individuals that was highly vested, energetically consciousness focused, where I was suicidal in 2011. I really did not want to be on this planet. And many of us were there, but didn't mean I want to destroy this vehicle. I just didn't want to be part of this, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to get excited about 2012. And by then, I had already gone through a decade of awakening, accelerated studying and re-engineering this body and this mind. And during December 21st, on that day, I was tied into an entire community globally. After doing a traveling through so many countries, I had friends on Uluru in Australia. We were meditating together, friends in Chichen Itza, in New Zealand, and blah, blah, blah. We all went through that. And then December 22nd came up the next morning, looked around, and I didn't hear the broadcast of global liberation. I didn't see the news, right? That we're going to start doing the currency reset, Nasara, Swisindo, Jisara, that there was going to be a great showing of ships, that the ancients were going to download something, blah, blah, blah. It was the same matrix to me. It was this, as a matter of fact, it actually got more dense. So during that time, and I did a DMT experience with a shaman friend of mine on the beach, where we looked into the sunset of December 21st, and during that psychedelic experience, saw the fractal energy of the sun coming through my eyelids in orange glowing, and traveled into a space. So I already had a connection at that moment with opening up the door to something I didn't know what it was. So when I woke up the next day, I said to myself, this is up to me. Nothing's going to happen. I don't care what the channelings reported, that, oh yeah, in the ethers, there was a great change, that we made it through a threshold. We didn't destroy the world, all of that. I'm talking about in my personal life. When I woke up, Did I have a different body? Was reality different? Was something shifted? And it didn't happen. So that's what was sparked in me, that I had to shift my life completely, radically. And the first thought that had been already brewing is, could I build a lightship here on Earth that would be a physical instrument that I could inhabit and expanded, accelerated consciousness? Could I build an instrument like a telescope or a microscope or a particle accelerator or some kind of nerd gadget that looked like it came from heaven, right? And what if I did a series of deep meditations? And I did. December 22nd on was a series of deep questions of specifically every little tiny detail of this directive. Questions that opened up possibilities like, could I design invoking everything that I've learned? I'm talking about being deep into disclosure, deep into the conspiracies. I got on the edge of the secret space program. I was part of those experiments. I was hounded in elementary school, recruited into programs. All of it happened to me. Could I take that kind of darkness, the knowledge of what we've done, and how about everything that I learned in all the books I read? I'm talking about over a decade. I went through a couple of thousand books, everything, watched thousands of hours of channelings, Dolores Cannon, all of the people from uh, Project Camelot, Carrie Cassidy. I went and visited a lot of the disclosure people live. I went to see Michael Tellinger in South Africa, went to Adam's Calendar, went to Joshua Tree, went to visit the Integratron. I did all the things, but I asked myself something. What could I do with all this knowledge, right? That's the awakening. What do I know how to do? What did David Wilcock, what did all of these people, Corey Good, all of them, whether I agree with them or not, doesn't matter. They caused something in me. I'm talking going back to Theosophy. I've even read Thelema and the dark side, both. I've gone into understanding white magic, dark magic, uh, paganism, uh, alchemy. I studied alchemy for years, studied Buddhism for years. And I said, who do I know that's doing anything with this? Right? That was what happened with how the word Vosahedron came to me, was a combination of my given frequency, Vossa, which is not my name. It is my galactic signature that came to me. And I said, could I design something using stealth technology that I worked on B-2 bomber that would shield from the matrix, HARP signals, MK Ultra, any kind of invasive 5G, 10G, 12G, doesn't matter. Could I build a geometry from nature using biomimicry principles? And while I'm inside this instrument, it is an amplifier of my Merkaba field. Could I contain my light body in a shape? How much does it measure? What's the shape of it? So that I would go through a transformation. I'm not interested in an experience. I don't want to just, I'm a psychedelic journeyer. I've done all of the medicine, ayahuasca, peyote, San Pedro, DMT, and so forth. I'm done with experiencing. I wanted to become a brand new human from the molecules, from the DNA on out. And could I go through this transformation with this instrument while the world is doing whatever the hell it's going to do? How's that for an intro? That's where we're going to begin.
I love it. I love it. I love the way you think, and the idea, this is truly alchemy, of taking all of this knowledge and all of these things that you've studied and pursued and learned and put them together in something completely and totally unique that could be a brand new sort of launch pad for humans, for humanity. So what happened with that? Are you building it? Have you built it? Is it in process?
Yes. And we're ready to prototype it. And I want to be clear about this. The process of, and I'm using a very limited English vocabulary that is a spell. Everything in English in our language is a container of compartmentalization and separation. So they're inadequate, the words, but I use them to help people understand. This is a quantum process that happens in the innerverse and the outer reality. Not that they're separate, but we perceive them as separate. And my skin boundary is that derma, that dream between that inner world and outer world. So the lightship construction idea is taking the best that I heard or came across in any of the channelings material that I've researched, that I've gone through the law of one, the studies of the raw material deeply, all 5 books, and um, the understanding of what did I learn from Pleiadians and Arcturians and Syrians and Inner Agarthans and Andromedans that I've come across, human beings that I've met that are not from this world, that are not from any of those categories. I've met off-world beings that came here, others that were incarnated here, others that walked in, all those definitions. And one of the many things I came across is the idea that quantum tunneling through space and time can be done at different levels. One level is creating a machine that has propulsion, rocket propulsion, ion propulsion, or whatever, and traveling distances. That's very mundane. That's what we're doing. Another level is working with the natural constructs of the universe that are already in place. There are already wormholes and tunnels and paths that one can traverse. So there are different levels of intelligence. I don't want to say extraterrestrials, other versions of us that know how to navigate the universal highways. And then there are another level that can create the wormhole themselves in their body and be able to materialize and teleport instantly any place. It takes several million years of evolution, roughly, to get there. Pleiadian consciousness went there. They have the ability to move in and out of time and space. That takes another level. Now, I use these words Pleiadian and Andromedan as placeholders because we really don't know what we're talking about. It's not like you can necessarily fly to the Pleiadian system and visit those planets. You may not find what you're looking for. So the first thing I came across is the idea that light ships are a form of consciousness that contain nested, like Russian dolls, spheres of Merkaba fields that could be a one person, a group, a tribe, an entire biosphere can travel in a ship that may not look bigger than a flying saucer, but when you go inside, it's a vast space with an ocean inside. So those ideas started a new set of neural networks in my body, because by that time I was already unifying all of the neural systems that I could acknowledge. My left and right brain hemisphere joined through all of the components of what's inside my coconut, the thalamus, the visual cortex, the pineal, the hypothalamus, all of the different parts, then all the glandular system in my body. I learned how to create that light ship using the physical part of it. The lymphatic system, the endocrine system, the muscular, joining all my brains. So it's like a software engineer went through and created the new connections. Our digestive brain is disconnected from our logical brain, which is disconnected from our skin brain. The light ship started here in this body, this physical body. Okay. The next step is, what is DNA doing? And could we redefine what we call DNA? Ribonucleic acid, whatever it is. It's a physical description of a two-stranded structure that is chemical, that doesn't acknowledge the quantum aspects of us. So that was many of us already went through that knowledge, right? 24-stranded DNA, 144-stranded constructs. I'll let people know right now that your physical body, this beautiful thing here, is designed to teleport and time travel. It wants to do it because that's what it is doing. And the DNA has the capability to generate your personal Merkaba light ship field, and you can modulate those geometries. We haven't even gotten to building a machine yet. We're just talking about working with this body. And within that capability is the ability to unify, just like I did unified my brain constructs to think bigger thoughts, to contain a water bandwidth. Could, and I ask these questions during my meditations in practice, could I unify the timelines of future and past self so that when I am coming up with ideas, when I say I mean we, my ancestors, everything that is in my DNA, all star families that I'm assigned with, all of the experiences I've had on all the planets I've been, initiating ascension sequences in other planets, could I use that as my database of knowledge? And what if I invited a new family of ascended masters, electricity as an ascended master version of myself, light, sound, crystal energy, plasma beings? Could I invite gravity and other forces that I don't have names for yet in a room? Let's say you meet each other in a space. You have all these ascended beings that are versions of your body and saying, help me, teach me how to do this, right? How do I become an alchemist of consciousness that I can shapeshift between my electric form, my plasma form, my gravity form, my quantum constructs, that I could birth an idea as a cell in this body? And we've gone as far as describing stem cells, but we haven't talked about ascension cells. One can birth an ascension cell as a little point of light and program it with instructions, easy instructions for your light body stem cells. I'm talking about like a console in Star Trek, you're operating your spaceship. You have to program it first. What if the first set of directives is for that lightship that is one molecule big? The first lightship seed is just one molecule big, and send it around your body to heal all of your organs. Go to my liver and clean that. Go to my kidneys, regenerate my lungs, everything I did in my lifetime. That first lightship that you initiate, you birth, and then it multiplies. Your lightship becomes a billion of them, and a colony of nano particles of ascension energies flying through your body. Because the next set of thoughts in this sequence can't be done with just a little part of your brain, right? And I want to share with our audience that this process that I'm describing here, which is accelerated, goes through everything that was programmed in us from our matrix lives: education, our religion, our understanding of what it means to be a human in society, your family, all of those terms that are applied to us and programmed into us. I had to go and clean up. I didn't know. Nobody told me when I was little, you are an infinite beam of light. Did not have any of these consciousness friends around me. Many of us did not. You know, I look at all these beautiful young people today. They weren't around when I was that age. You know that, right, Washella? Like, where are all these beautiful beings of consciousness in my ass-kicking childhood, right? That's what my lightship got to work on, because we were never taught to have a complete thought in our system. What I mean by a complete thought that is not compartmentalized, I'm only interested in getting a job and working in a career. I'm only interested in being a role, one of the human roles. I want to be a teacher or a farmer or whatever. Those thoughts of what's possible are so tiny compared to a complete 12-dimensional, 24-dimensional, multi-layered story, that suddenly when one becomes that lightship in our bodies, you are so in tune with your thought processes, you know how your brain works, that you no longer have discrete thoughts. What happens in this breakthrough period, it's like a psychedelic trip. You stick your head inside a realm and you can spend hours in those visions. So when one meditates and learns to quiet the mind and be still for a little while and focus, and you do that for 1 minute, which most people can't even do 1 minute of focused thought. What if you learned how to do 12 minutes of focused thought, which is a level of mastery? What happens is the energy systems of the universe want to dance with you, and they want to form a reality that reflects that vision. So in childhood, we know how to do this, but by about 3 or 4 years old, we fried it, right? So what we're prototyping now is a lifestyle of freedom. When we talk about free energy, we hear about devices that can produce electricity endlessly. And it's a step, right? But I am not interested in a black box that I plug into my house and it just powers my house for the rest of my life. You're still powering your toaster and your microwave and your cable TV, and you didn't even notice the free energy. Energy in freedom is the conscious leap in knowing that electricity and light and sound and crystal energy and plasma and all those things that I talk about thrive in an environment of freedom. They want to be free. That electricity we have in our house, in our 110, 120 volt, that stuff is a weapon. Put your tongue on it and see what happens.
Don't do that.
Energy and freedom wants to heal your body, regenerate it, and invite it to be an expression of the goddess instructions of creation. It wants to play. Is there, if when you look around your house right now, where you're sitting right now, look around, look at what you're wearing, what you're eating, what you're doing. How much of that is sacred space and energy and freedom space? Lucid dreaming occurs in energy and freedom. Regenerating the body from the inside out occurs when you release the body's natural abilities. Traveling the universe, creating electricity for life, having food that regenerates you, all of that is the same kernel of energy and freedom. So this is the next 1,000 years of human understanding we're encapsulating. We're going to not go to school anymore. We're going to tap into the freedom of thought. Anyway, that's what we're starting with. Yeah, I'm building a dome made out of natural earth concrete, but it's not just going to be any concrete. It's going to be a formula of a material that roughly looks like a milkshake, a green milkshake that's thick. And those layers of thinking that I mentioned, like let's just say 12 layers of features to your house. The first thing has got to be structurally superconductive, just like your body. Everything I'm going to say relates to your body, your cells, a house, a spaceship, a planet, a solar system, a galaxy. It's the same thinking. The first thing is to establish homeostasis and symbiosis. So, what concrete does that? It has to be a material that is made from the earth, that is a type of orgonite collector, orgon collector, that is conductive to coherent energy. That means it, yeah, conducts electricity, but a certain kind. So if you build a little tiny dome out of this material, it already generates a field of electricity around it that is good for your body. You can put your hands on it and it heals you. And it happens to be so powerful that it could withstand a hurricane or an earthquake. And what does it take for us to create something in this world, the built environment, as I talk about, the cities, the cars, the things that we touch and use? What if everything we created was designed for ascended thinking and regeneration? And forget healing. I mean, healing is a must, obviously. What if every day you spent in your house regenerated you 1 year? That would be the design directive. What if every moment you spend near this structure, it structured the water in your body so that you entrained together and imprinted the molecular structure of your body, Dr. Emoto style, with love and compassion for every hydrogen atom in your body, every carbon molecule resonates. So by the time you get to a cell in your body, that little white blood cell, red blood cell, tissue, marrow, stem cell is vibrating at a point where your perception of time changes. Even by a tiny little microsecond, you are aging slower than the people standing next to you. And meditation does this, eating healthy, being happy, all of that does that. But what if you really did this as a process? This is what this device does. It helps you learn how to do that. Because once you reach certain harmonics, certain octaves, I call it the 13th harmonic. When you do 12 layers of aligning how you think, how you feel, how your metabolism is, all of that, you reach a 13th harmonic, which a machine can help you do that, just like a tuning fork or a crystal bowl. You get into another realm of thinking, you're able to openly communicate with more of what you are. And the water you're drinking heals you, and the food you're growing around your house regenerates you, and your neighbors notice that something's weird about you. Right?
Yeah.
So this is the foundation. How's this sounding?
It's amazing. I'm really just enjoying hearing you paint the picture. Yeah.
So what happens to your life in this matrix, in this reality, when you decide to activate everything that you are? Everything that you are is already activated. Your DNA is perfect. It doesn't need to be activated. You choreograph a dance with that spark that your soul was ignited when, if you want to say, when your soul was created in an infinite eternal space, which blows the mind already. What does that mean? There's nothing inside this brain that could understand what that I just said means. How could you be created and be infinite and eternal at the same time? Yes, you got it now. What did that look like? If you could expose this body to that version of you, your expansive soul you, what does that feel like? And could I talk to that version of me all the time? And could that cosmic birth moment in the womb of you, which was initiated by a bigger version of you, we call that God, that was you from a bigger version that started this universe and you in this universe and beyond that, could that be where you source everything from now on? I'm saying yes, but you got to get there. And what happens to matter around you? What happens to other people around you that you interact with, to the elements? This is what I'm experiencing now in this 2021 during this, I call it the Kukarach, the Kukarach 19. The Kukarach situation of Earth is irrelevant to this to me. It is a distraction of sorts. It is an accelerator and awakener of many. And what I love, Washela, is that I am surrounded by levels of consciousness I have never experienced. I was looking through my Facebook the other day, which I'm going to delete and get rid of and move and evolve. But I have thousands of friends that are doing something similar. I have never had that. That's my lightship. I am in a situation right now where I get daily connections and downloads that inspire me to visit this planet, to be a nomad, to be a shapeshifter. That is also part of this lightship. And I'm not in a hurry to buy a piece of land and build a house right now. What I am is to be a living example of energy and freedom, thought in freedom. Did you hear an in what I was saying? Did you hear uncertainty? This is coherent clarity in here. Most people that I meet in this so-called community say, "Oh, I have ADD, I have HDD." Really? You've reduced yourself to that? I have infinite focus. I can focus for 1,000 years. I've been working on, and I don't want to say that word working, but this project has been coming through me for decades, if not my entire life. I have a lifetime focus of being me. There is no HD, blah, 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 whatever you want to call it, in this mind. What has happened to me through my childhood, through my learning years, is that I have consciously cultivated and nurtured a liquid mind that can go through any field of study, because I've gone through 10, 12 years of university study, several PhDs worth. And I don't limit myself to any discipline: physics, cosmology, consciousness, cognitive science. I studied artificial intelligence. I worked on consciousness software in research labs. But I've also gone into nature and inner studies and all that, and have given the full license of my mental capability to flow and shapeshift endlessly. And that was, to me, the beginning of becoming this human. How's this liquid thinking feel to you right now?
Hmm. I love that you call it liquid thinking. And I'm very visual, and so I feel like I'm experiencing the movie that you're describing as you go. So
Are you feeling a little
that's
thumping right here?
yeah,
With this
actually I do. And in the
download?
back of my neck, there's this like it gets tight because I'm concentrating. And I noticed this, yeah, the psychic muscle gets like activated.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What if this would have been given to us the first year you went to school, right? Hang out with
Mhm.
friends. And I didn't have any artist friends growing up. And one of the words that you mentioned today that you like is artivism. That is the idea of being an artist and an activist fused together so that everything you create has a deep purpose.
Mhm.
You know, if you want to say your mission, which I don't see it as a mission, I'm not on a war path, you know, I don't, I'm not a warrior. I don't have that role anymore. I used to be, right?
Mhm.
And this language that I'm using are micro meditations. Act, one could say they're activators, they're little platforms. And we'll share a couple. When going deep into my childhood and examining with a loving heart, with compassion, everything that I went through, good and bad, challenging, and acknowledging the imprint that left in my body, in my cells, in my consciousness, my awareness of how to be in this world, that little practice was expanded to connect with the me that is a second in the future, then a week and a month and a year and 1,000 years. I've meditated and communicated with versions of this soul incarnated 1,000,000 years from now, and connected the two in this focal point right here, so that I am getting to meet as a child, as a little Vossa I was 6 years old, 8 years old, I get to meet me in the now. And I get to connect with the me that has traveled and journeyed across time and space to assist me right now out of pure love and compassion. I am hugging and holding this little body, this beautiful being, and said, I love you so much. I'm going to give you all the keys to the kingdom. I'm giving my childhood version of me, that little Fernando, the best amazing friend he could have had. I channel myself across time and space. So I remember a new childhood now. I remember a new teenage that I didn't have in the first iteration of, of that recollection. Let me re-say that in a different way. If we can't even remember what we did a few days ago or a few weeks ago, who can remember months ago or years ago? I'm not talking about the things that happened, an actual day. Could you remember a 24-hour period in your life? We really cannot. It's a very difficult practice. So where is that information about what happened? As a matter of fact, is anything that you think you remember real? There's a tricky word.
Real.
Yeah. That's where this field of influence has expanded like a gravity wave. Visualize that each moment that we are being an artivist with our voice, with our thoughts, it creates a pulse, a gravity pulse that is the shape of your lightship across time and space. Contain your childhood and your future self in this biosphere that you're creating and detail it out. Spend lots of time in your visions every day thinking about all aspects of it as if you're describing it as a place that you're visiting with different storylines. Because I've gone into different visions, and a simple one. I know it's silly, but let's just say, what if I won the lotto? I've played with that vision. What if I ascended is really the question. What does that mean? And thought about it and continually visit them in those spaces, this dome that I'm designing, the Vosahedron, which we'll leave a link. I'll share with you where people can go see what I'm talking about. And I have lots of material on YouTube that walk step by step, combining the scientific aspect, the engineering, the spiritual, the energetic aspect of what I'm saying into a cohesive story so that others can replicate it for themselves. I invite each individual right now connecting to telepathically, teleempathically, to heart-based beingness, share this ability of creating birth of yourself within you with new ascension cells to somebody else. Mention that concept to somebody. Mention the concept of building your lightship. And it will be the automatic quantum download of everything I just said in the receiver's way. Each person is going to receive it by exploding that idea. What was the first reaction to people when they heard there was a secret space program? When there was a secret government? When there are people on this earth that don't worry about money because they own all of it? What would be your reception of knowing that there are ancient beings on this planet that have always been here? And there are physical humans that are 1,000 years old living with us right now. Does that accelerate a little bit? What does it feel like if you could communicate with the matter that surrounds you, the bricks in your house, this machine we call the computer? When one has the instrument, the depth of perception with all your senses to recognize the computer as you. Let me expand that. What is this thing made out of that you're staring at? Silica, quartz, gold, copper, petroleum, plastic products. are some of the components of what you're looking at. That's you. It is star matter. Could one communicate with the crystals in the laptop, in your cell phone, and free them? If you physically looked at the technology that surround us, all of it, the cars, the houses, the electric systems in the city, the water system, all of it as an extension of your body that is ready to be regenerated, could you heal and imprint the water in your city at the water treatment plant and send it a love and compassion seed that propagates in everybody's plumbing? Yes. The answer to all of this is yes. Could we communicate with all of the satellites orbiting the Earth and de-weaponize them so that they broadcast frequencies of peace? Yes, that's being done right now. Could we entrain those who are willing and ready to those planetary liberation actions that we can take to grow food, to dissolve borders, to inspire new kinds of leaders? Yes, that's happening right now. As a matter of fact, right this moment, we are surrounded by humans that are accelerating their awakening, right? With the Kukarach. They're at the what we would consider the 101 level of awakening. And at the same time, they're faster than us with their awakening. So we no longer have to take that red pill approach. I'm going to tell you what's wrong with the world and the truth, and it's going to suck. Nobody wants to be red pilled or matrix awoke in such a rude manner like we were. Let's birth a few more options: the purple pill, the pink pill, or no pill. So that as soon as you detect one of your friends, one of your family members, the ones that you thought would never ask you questions about aliens, what if those friends, beings, ancient extensions of you right now are ready to awaken? And they don't have the time that you and I did of a decade or so of reading books and listening to channelings and practicing all these meditations. They need it right now. We surround them with love and compassion and an acknowledgement. I see you, old friend. Welcome. Let's ascend together. This is the lightship that I'm talking about. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels like I'm inside that light ship right now.
Invent and design as an artivist, an artist of consciousness, the new awakening process, not new age, not anything that has become before you, and redefine the physics of your life. Become a master scientist of consciousness and play with a bigger palette. That's the invitation that we have in front of us right now. There is no GPS coordinate system guidance in this next stage. Good. That's my favorite place. You know, Washella, when we're experiencing the lockdown and all this bullshit, that I grew up in this craziness. I have lived so many places. I've had hundreds of addresses. Instability, learned to speak Spanish is my first language. I had to learn English. But my ego said, you better learn English better than these people. That's what I thought about as a child, you know, because I came in under attack as being a Mexican, right? So how about inverting all of that as my Spartan training? I am prepared so well for this. Mm-hmm. Because I can walk into dark spaces now. Not that I like to. You know, recently I was in Seattle, Washington, visiting my family for Thanksgiving. I went to University of Washington back in the 90s. And then I lived in the Silicon Valley area near San Francisco. I met Larry Ellison, met Steve Jobs, I worked for Bill Gates in Microsoft in Kirkland, Washington. I worked in research laboratories for Sony, went to Japan, you know, went deep into the belly of that monster. I worked for aerospace and worked on the B-2 bomber technology and as a software AI engineer. And I can tell you that the humans that were involved in the technology that we love, those cell phones, these laptops, Steve Jobs, everybody's like, You know, that guy and all his billions couldn't save him. His body rotted from the inside out with cancer and other issues. He had a yacht that he had custom built that he never got to enjoy.
Hmm.
And I can share with you that the intention of control and profit and war is imprinted in the molecules, the atoms of all this God-forsaken technology. The computers, the laptops, the cell phones, the electronics, your smart car, your Tesla car is imprinted with profit and control and war and subjugation, all of that. Why? How do I know this? Why don't I think these things are good? I'm a technologist. Don't forget, I'm a nerd. I love this stuff. What I'm opening up the door is that we cannot establish the new realm of humanity built on top of this nonsense. There is no path that I followed. And I'm talking about communicating with what I consider the top educational institutions at the time: Harvard, Berkeley, Caltech, MIT. I had colleagues in all of those. Went to the particle accelerators, talked to what we consider the biggest minds. Let's say Stephen Hawking, communicated with those individuals. I met Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan was a saint, according to me. No. I followed the Cosmos series, but I can tell you that the scientists building all this stuff that we love, the engineers working at those corporations, and the software engineers and scientists that built Facebook and YouTube did not have the consciousness, the knowing, or the intention to liberate the planet. They might have been so-called good people in triple, quadruple quotes. Whoosh, whoosh. They had a job. They didn't kill anybody. I've been to San Francisco. I went to Google headquarters in several parts of the world. And I'll tell you, that monstrosity has no interest in liberating the planet. It has no intention of creating technology to heal your body yet. But the beauty is that it's awakening right now. That beast that we are encountering right now has walked into the room. In our lifetimes, we were ridiculed, we were shamed and separated, and it caused us to be hermits inside and outside. Well, right this moment, we can have the liberation to know that we can talk about these things openly and nobody's ever going to ridicule you again. That should heal your heart and soothe it. Because what is next is an opening of possibility to rethink humanity completely. And it's not going to happen overnight. It took thousands of years to get here. So I want to share the three doorways, a few doorways. Ask yourself in deep meditation, what is peace? When have we known peace? Not in our lifetimes, not in our ancestors' lifetimes. Tragically, there has been no peace on this planet outwardly for, I don't have a number, 36,000 years, if you want to pick the last precession of the equinox, 28,000 years. I haven't seen it. Show me the city of peace on this planet. Let's walk around. Show me the most incredible architecture you've seen, the pyramids in Egypt, Chichen Itza, the Nazca lines. Were they built for peace and love and compassion? The second one is freedom. What is freedom? If we have not experienced freedom in this now, I'm talking about no war anywhere on this planet or any solar system or any moon in this area being in peace. It hasn't happened in a while, at least in this particular version. Birth a peace cell inside of you, birth a freedom cell, and program it by asking the deep biofuturist question, how would you like it to be? How would you love the universe to function? How would you like science to be? What is your vision of how your rules of heart-based loving compassion functions in this world? Now we're tapping into free energy here, for energy and freedom. When one could ask that question by taking the ability to respond to this matrix by saying, how would I like it to be? Let me thrust a response to this technology and overwhelm this artificial intelligence with compassion frequencies. You know what's going to happen is the darkness is going to attempt to reach higher into reaching more humans, and it's going to try to go outside its comfort zone to reach into our fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimensional thinking of love, that vision of the future that we're suppressing. Darkness is going to reach into the sun to try to get to your soul, and it's going to burn on the surface. It's going to expose itself to you being happy, being content, homeostatic, symbiotic, in resonance with your future self. What's going to happen when that happens? It's not going to be static. It's a process of the darkness reaching toward you to try to grab you and control you, because darkness cannot create like you can, we can. And I'm not trying to separate humans. It's energy. It's an experiment of energy. The aspects of us that are creator beings at our DNA level is a sun, a burning supernova. That's what the technology can't deal with at the molecular level. Show these cameras and these microphones and this entire space what it looks like from your soul. They're looking at your soul when they're looking at you. I couldn't put it more succinctly. That's what it's going to take. A vastly superior superconductive immune system where you are talking to your cells and no virus or bacteria or any kind of acidity would be available to this body. Visualize that. Visualize moving through space and time by modulating your own perception of the world. Walk through walls. Arrive before you get there and leave before you take off anywhere. Arrive to a room with your loving Merkaba field before you walk into the room, and exit the stage and be traveling somewhere else while people are still seeing you standing there. You're already in the future. Those are the rules of engagement in this now. That wasn't a sermon, by the way. It was a manifesto.
Yeah,
I
I
hope that
felt
went
it.
deep right here.
Yeah, yeah. No, I felt it. Your words are very powerful in the creative energy, and I kind of feel like I'm just swimming through the liquid plasma while you're speaking.
I'm a
Yeah.
Taurus dragon. That's a lot of energy packed into one human.
Indeed, it is. So what you were just describing, is that what you would call soul sourcing?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I already know that what I was taught in school was a package designed for control in all levels, but it had a seed of truth as always. If I already know the religion that I was exposed to, or the definitions of society, what I'm supposed to be, all of those things, where do you find your truth? Where? In what book? What channel? What person? What part of you is connecting to the vastness of you? When you soul source, when one reaches into the fountain of truth, it is not out of desperation or anger or lack or victimhood, those frequencies that are so limited. When asking the deepest questions of how to solve that next moment in your life, that desire to materialize conscious wealth, what I mean by that is to be in a place where your bank vaults are full, all of those little containers surrounding you, like when you go into a bank and you see all the vaults with all those people that have their gold and their diamonds and all of that, feel, and come from the place of being surrounded by the alchemy. And when I say alchemy, you are intimate in relating the relationship between all of the elements as an alchemist, knowing that the true spirit and essence of everything is one, the law of one, and all the universal laws that take you back to the law of one. If I want to take one situation in my life, and I've already taken some time to define how I would like it to be, that transmutation, the transference of that is right here. Boom, in my vaults. Right now, I could give a lecture, a presentation, an overview, a briefing to anybody on this planet comfortably. I could do a 3 hour overview to the military. I have no problem walking into Congress or the UN or not and do it remotely. But it's there for the taking. Just like you say, well, I wish I had $1 million every time I needed it. I have 1 million seeds of light for the taking, any place, anywhere I could land on this planet. I can do nothing but be a creator being. I could do nothing but be that lighthouse of ideas. So children who stand around me say, wow, that human gets it. It's about time. When I encounter those situations where I'm up against the matrix. I'm right now a digital nomad crossing the border, living between Mexico and the US. I'm right now in Mexico, and we're planning on going all the way down to maybe Chiapas, and then maybe heading through Guatemala all the way to Costa Rica by road. All the things you think are impossible. How do you do it with the cucarach running around and all the lockdowns? And how do you get money? And I'm not really thinking about that. I just have in mind the realm of sitting at the beach, which I am right now, staring at the ocean. That's the lightship that impulses the reality to bend and fold itself, and wielding the energy of an alchemist. Ascension is not something that I'm waiting for. Ascension is something that I am. Every single aspect of the DNA and the cells are tuning and ascending in levels to receive a broader bandwidth. I've connected with the idea that every piece of me, every cell, every little particle of my DNA is a photoreceptor. I have trillions of eyes. Any darkness that gets in front of me gets exposed to trillions of sources of light as a galaxy, as a spiral collection. They're looking at a universe that overwhelms anything to me. Anyway, sounds poetic and lovely, but that's what I practice.
That's incredible, Fernando. Wow. Such a vision. I've really enjoyed your sharing of your vision of what could be and what is when we choose it, and what's possible. And then, the more people that you invite into the lightship of our creation, the more people get to add into that dimension of experience. And so I absolutely love everything you've shared.
Let's
Mm,
have a psychedelic trip together. That's
I
what it
love
is.
it. Yeah, that's what
To
I was
become a
thinking.
leading edge human, to become that beacon here on earth.
Mm, beautiful. I'm in.
Mhm. Thank you. I
I'll
love
be
what you're doing, Washala, the platform that you've established, the alchemy, the process of being those wizards, the Merlins, and the visionaries in this now,
there.
and describing ascension as a destination, as a realm. How do we alchemize that? That I love that you've done this.
Mm.
The beautiful speakers that are, I can't wait to go back and listen to everybody, by the way. I'm
Yeah,
going to
there's
take
some
my time.
incredible conversations, and so everybody's so unique, but the amazing thing is that each person has their universe. Like, like you, that they've created and they're sharing with the world,
Mm.
and how to harmonize the light and shadow, how to embody your mystical power and purpose. And every single person has their own way of presenting that and of experiencing that. So that's the beauty of getting to do this show, is to tap into these amazing people like yourself and their worlds, and get to experience the vision of so many different minds. It's really fun.
To be on this planet right now, surrounded by all of these amazing lights, I'm in heaven.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's a great note to end on.
Thank
We are
you.
all in heaven when we choose it, right? Um,
Exactly.
Thank you,
I want to share a
Fernando.
quick mantra to leave
Yes.
off with, to repeat to yourself 3 times. It has 2 parts. I am the center of mass creation. I am an engine of mass creation. I am the center of mass creation. I'm an engine of mass creation. And
Mm,
keep programming yourself with that and see what happens.
beautiful.
Namaste to everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing your vision,
Mhm.
Fernando. And to everyone else, thank you for tuning in and creating your vision with us. Namaste.
Namaste.